All right, I'm gonna get this nice and simple and straight to the point, so you guys don't have to keep waiting or wait. So today I'm gonna be talking about how you build muscle and get a classic physique. We're gonna be going over training, nutrition, sleep, and basically the basic fundamentals of getting a classic physique. And this is going to be my method, so disclaimer, I am not a professional. I don't have any degrees. I don't know really the science, to be honest with you. If you're looking for a very scientific channel, this channel is not going to be for you. Go to Dr. Lane Norton's channel or Jeff Nippard's channel or some scientific channel that, that has all the fancy schmancy, study bullshit that I don't read at all. I mean, so without further ado, let's get into this. All right, to start this off, we're going to be talking about the muscle gain. So in my opinion, volume is key. Volume is going to dictate how much muscle you put on. The amount of times that you work out in a week is extremely important to the entire process of putting on muscle. And as far as the weight is concerned, now I am a big believer in lighter weights, higher reps, more mind-muscle connection, really focusing on the muscle. I am not a 5x5 kind of person. I am not someone that takes pride in how strong they are because I'm not strong at all. I tend to lift very light, and I have very voluminous workouts, usually 20 plus sets. A body part, that is. So if I'm doing 2 body parts, usually going to be 40 sets in a workout, and that could be taken anywhere between an hour and a half to an hour 45, sometimes 2 hours. So it's definitely a longer workout. And so if you're someone that doesn't have the time for that, well, I'm sorry, this is my method. I tend to have the time, so that's what I do, and I just am a big fan of that. I'm a very big believer in that. And you also have to think about the muscle that you're working. If your mind is not in the right place, you are not going to be having a good workout. You have to focus on your workout. I cannot stress that enough. And yeah, I cannot stress enough the mindset. You have to be mentally ready to work out. You have to put your focus on the workout and not anywhere else. So if you had a bad day, who gives a fuck? You're working out. You got to get some good results. All right, what about programs like workout programs? I don't believe in them. I don't believe in them whatsoever. In my opinion, if I were to give someone some advice about programming, I would say stop and don't do programming. I don't like pre-programmed things. I am a big believer in instinct training. So, I don't like if I'm supposed to have chest on Mondays. Well, what if I don't feel like doing chest? What if my chest is a little sore? What if I feel like I need to do legs on Mondays or arms or shoulders? What about weak point training? What if I realize my rear delts are a little weak and they're not sore at all? I can go train them. Why would I have to just stick doing chest or something like that if that's in the pre-program? So I am not a believer in programs whatsoever. I'm not a big believer in that at all. I'm also I also recommend shocking the body. So you have to have in my opinion, sometimes you gotta put the workout in a different order. Sometimes you gotta do things, you gotta switch it up, you gotta switch up the rep ranges, you gotta switch up the sets, the order in which you do things. I'd never recommend going and doing the same workout over and over again for the longest periods of time. Sometimes even when it feels good, sometimes your body still needs a little bit of a shock. I don't say, mix it up every single time, but you want to, after a few weeks of doing the same thing, maybe it's time you start, switching up your routine a little bit. That's just my opinion. Now, this is going to be a hotly debated issue, the rep range. And, there's a lot of people that say, 4 to 6 reps, really heavy, shock the body. And in my opinion, I don't do that shit at all. The only thing that's going to do, in my opinion, is going to hurt the joints. And really, you're asking for an injury at that point, because every single person I know that is trained like that, and I'm not exaggerating, has had major injuries. And I did train for that for just a few months, and in those few months, I got a lot of injuries, probably the worst I ever felt in the gym. horrible workouts because my knees would hurt, my ankles, my freaking, my elbows. It was just horrible. And I was someone with good setup. I didn't have bad form. Another thing is so my rep range would be 8 reps at the heaviest. If that's like the absolute heaviest. Like if you never want to get a weight, in my opinion, that you can't get at least 8 times with incredible form. But that being said, I usually don't go as heavy as 8 reps. I usually go between the 12 and 20 rep range. Now you're gonna be like, the 8 reps in between those, that's not really and that's kind of weird. Well, the reason I do that is because I want to stick to a weight that I can do for a lot of times or a lot of reps. So 12 to 20 for me, if I end up in that ballpark. So let's say I'm doing, weight and it gets really heavy and really hard at, 13, 14, 15 reps. Well, 12 to 20, I fit right into that zone, so I could stop if I wanted to, or I could keep going all the way to 20. So I leave room for myself there. So that's just something I like to do personally. So if you don't like that, if you're someone that likes to do 10 to 12 reps, it's got to be within that 2 rep range, fine. But I usually like to leave a little room for error, if you would consider that error. All right, had to put my hair down. So also another tip, and this is, in my opinion, a very good tip. Let's say you're doing 4 sets of something. After that 4th set, I really like finishing off a specific exercise with 50 plus rep sets at a very light weight, something that you control very easily. But you can do for a lot of times, and that's just like that burnout set, So that's just a little tip if you want to try that out. 50 plus rep set at the end of that, at the end of your workout, you should go and try it because it really worked for me. Okay, we've talked about the reps. How about the sets? Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I usually end up around the 4 to 6 set range. Now, to a lot of people, that's a lot of volume, and I don't recommend that if you are a beginner. If you are a beginner, I recommend, and I strongly recommend, that you stick with about 3 sets. Because if you're doing my type of training, my type of volume, and you're doing 4 to 6 sets and you're a beginner, it's really going to be bad for you because you're not going to be able to recover from that. And remember, muscles grow through the recovery process. If you're putting your body through so much stress and you can't recover from that, well, how do you expect to gain muscle? So you got to use your brain a little bit. You got to understand where your limitations are. And if you're a beginner, your limitations are going to be, they're going to be there, and you're going to notice some pretty hefty soreness. So don't do my 4 to 6 set protocol. I would stick to 3 sets at the most. And if you're feeling really good, 4 sets, but try to keep the volume, up there, but not too high if you're a beginner. But if you want to try my method, 4 to 6 sets, sometimes I'll actually go down to 3 if I feel like I'm really exhausted, but it's usually around the 4 to 6 set range. All right, fun topic to talk about here. Now let's go on to nutrition. First thing off the bat, don't stop overdoing protein. You do not need to overdo protein. I see people eating like 300, 400, 500 grams of protein, and they weigh like $1.50 or $1.75. It's like that extra protein is not doing anything for you. As a matter of fact, it's probably making you fatter, and it's not doing anything. There is a cutoff point to where protein matters. It doesn't matter after, we'll get into amounts later, but overdoing protein is the most retarded thing you can do. Also, it kind of makes the body pretty acidic, eating a shitload of protein all the time. So I actually recommend eating a lower protein diet, and that's going to be very controversial. I understand. Not that a lot of people are watching this anyway, but I don't recommend extremely high protein diets. If you're going to do extremely high protein, I recommend cycling the amount of protein that you eat. So some weeks you want to eat like higher protein, go ahead, but you got to give your body a little bit of a break. Got to give your kidneys a little bit of a break. Remember, you don't get something for nothing. Eating high protein, it's great. It seems like there's no cons to it, but there is. So yeah. But with that being said, how much protein? Well, on my lowest days, I tend to go to zero point 0.7 to zero point 0.9 grams of protein per body weight. Now, to a lot of gym bros, it's going to be like, oh man, what are you talking about? It's either a gram or nothing. It's like, stop. Just stop. Your body doesn't actually need that much protein in order to build muscle. Extremely high amounts of protein is probably one of the biggest myths in bodybuilding. You don't need that. But if you're going to do it, a gram to a gram 0.2 is the most that you're going to need. 1.2 grams is the most you would ever need per body weight, that is. And even then, it's really, you could go and get the same results eating lower protein. So, yeah. Okay, truthfully, I could do an entire video on this one subject because it bothers the shit out of me. Force feeding. Stop force feeding. If you want to gain muscle, the stupidest myth is that you gotta bulk, you gotta get all these calories down, you gotta force feed. Dude, whoever told you that can go fucking, shove a fucking chicken breast down their fucking throat and choke on it. That is not true at all whatsoever. Force feeding is gonna get you fat, and believe me, I've done it twice. It doesn't do anything for you at the end. As a matter of fact, force feeding leads to a lot of weight gain, and when you're trying to cut down from that weight gain, eventually anything that you would have gained from that force feeding will go away in the cutting process, and it's useless, and it's also really bad for health in general. I mean, if you want high blood pressure and shit like that, and go ahead and do it. I'm not saying you can't, go ahead and make the same mistakes I made, but I have made those mistakes, and I'm here to tell you, don't fucking do it. Okay, I understand, we're all bodybuilders, we want the meat, but guess what? Vegetables are extremely important as well. Believe me, I'm not vegan at all. But I do understand the benefits to a lot of vegetables in your diet. As a matter of fact, I recommend that. There's a whole lot of benefits to vegetables in your diet. A lot of times vegetables contain a good amount of fiber, so if you're cutting weight and you want to lose fat, that is an incredible way to lose fat because you will stay full for a while. I mean, broccoli has a lot of fiber in it, not a whole lot, but it's enough, and that's something that I eat a lot. Another thing is cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and things like that. They're actually really good at lowering estrogen. And not only that, kind of blocking it a little bit. And so that's really good for men and women because, high estrogen, even in women sometimes is not always that good. You don't want an excess in estrogen at all. You always want to make sure that's in check, especially if you're a guy like me. Hopefully you can tell I'm a guy, even though I have long hair. Okay. Stop being afraid of carbohydrates. I know even when people are trying to build muscle, there's like this whole stigma around carbohydrates. Oh, carbs just get you fat. Carbs are your enemy. Anyone that says that, again, is an idiot. Don't listen to these Hollywood actors that talk to you about eating chicken and broccoli every 3 hours and no carbs. They're fucking retards, and also they're on a shitload of steroids and drugs because they're Hollywood fucking actors. So don't do that. I know that's probably where the myth probably came from. But it's not true. Carbs are your friend, but you also have to make sure you earn your carbs. You can't just have an excess of carbohydrates. Just because I said this doesn't mean you can go to the store and eating fucking chips. I mean, there's also a difference between complex carb and simple carbohydrates. I'm a big believer in complex carbohydrates because they tend to keep you fuller longer. For instance, and these are the examples, oatmeal, rice, sweet potatoes. These are incredible carb sources I recommend. And by the way, I'm reading off this little thing that I wrote here, because I can't really keep my thoughts together. Okay, this is going to be a short one, but it's sleep, 8 to 10 hours. 6 is extremely low, and you can get by on 6, but it's not going to be beneficial. And anyone that sleeps less than 6 hours, you're asking for it, and it's not good for. Not only let's ignore the bodybuilding aspect for cognitive health, and your brain is much more important than your biceps. Just believe me there. The amount of muscle you have in your body is it doesn't matter. Your brain is the most important muscle. So if If you want to feel good and all those things, sleeping less than 6 hours is stupid. And I know a lot of people that get 3 hours of sleep a night, and they're all idiots. Okay, the last category, last but not least, the actual building of the classic physique. Now, again, classic physique, bodybuilding in general, it's all opinionated. Now, this is my opinion. Small waist is always important, but not just the small waist, because some people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is my favorite bodybuilder, by the way, didn't have a small waist. He had a 34-inch waist. That's like 5-6 inches bigger than mine. I have like a 28-ish, 29-inch waist, and it's really, really good. My waist being in the 20s is really good. But he had a very big waist, but if you noticed, his stomach was very concave, and he never let his stomach protrude. He always had a flat stomach that was able to be sucked in. So that's extremely, extremely important. Stomach control, extremely important. Vacuum training. Vacuums are when you pull your stomach in, and you pull the stomach wall to, inwards, and it looks really, really weird, but believe me, it actually has the ability to kind of shrink the waist a little bit. Not too much, but stomach control in general for classic physiques is extremely important. Another aspect of classic physiques is good calf development, which is the lower parts of the legs. Guys, there's nothing that looks dumber than a guy with a big upper body and small calves. Proportions matter, okay? Just keep that in mind. Proportions matter. Don't be looking like a fucking weirdo with a huge ass upper body and then stick calves. That looks stupid as fuck. Another thing is that do not, and I repeat, do not gain muscle too fast. Now that seems really stupid and like counterproductive to everything I'm telling you, because I'm telling you how to gain muscle. So you're like, Caleb, what the fuck are you talking about? And I understand. But what I mean by this is that the old school guys, even in their off season when they were supposedly bulking, actually they weighed less than what they were on stage. Arnold himself is against bulking. You never saw pictures of him in his contest days fat. As a matter of fact, his off season, his stage weight would be like 250 pounds, but in his off season he'd be like 220. And that's extremely good, because you don't need to bulk up and get really huge, really fast. It's stupid. You're going to blow your physique and your proportions and your lines out. So I always recommend taking things slow, taking time to detail and to kind of mature the muscle that you have built already. So take it slow, go slow. There's no need to rush. You got your entire life to work out and look good. And, if someone's watching this and they're a little bit older, still, same thing. Be patient. Don't rush it. You'll thank me later. All right, well, that was kind of it in terms of how you build muscle, the nutritional aspect, the weightlifting aspect, and all those things. Again, I just actually, I just want to bring this video out just, for a little information here and there. Nothing wrong with that. I also want to say that I will be, again, I said this in my last video in the same spot in my house, but I will be filming more my workouts very, very soon. Again, the whole, world is fucking fucked right now, so I can't really go into a gym right now because they're not open in my area, but I will soon, and I will be posting those videos, and the quality will get a lot better, so believe me, and stick around for that. Peace.